Hello! Welcome, I am Kara, aka Clefairy Creations, and today I'm going to show you how to do some simple ink botanical illustrations. Sorry if you hear any noises in the background. I do have my dog in the space with me today, so there may be some weird noises, but we'll ignore them for now. So with our botanical illustrations, we're really keeping these simple today. I'm going to be using these black pigment micro pens. I think were only like $11 for the whole thing, so it was a really good deal. And they come in a variety of sizes. I have tried to use as many of the sizes as I possibly can, and honestly, I don't think you can go wrong. I'm going to show you some tips and tricks for the various sizes, when to use them, and how to use them for today's botanical illustration, but we will do that during the actual drawing process. To give you a little bit of a view for how these are going to look, I have my sketchbook here. And I started doing these really not too long ago, like maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. I just really wanted something simple that I didn't have to put a lot of effort into maintaining. Like, you know, with color pencils, you have to sharpen those. With paints, you have to have water. So I really just didn't want to do that. And I don't know, I just wanted something simple. So that's why I went ahead and grabbed these pens. And you can see really simple line work here. I wasn't trying to go with anything too crazy. And this one I started but did not finish. Today we are gonna finish a full piece. We're gonna kind of go through all the various forms you can take with these types of illustrations, both with the leaves and the flowers. So I am by no means, have explored all parts to this, but I really have enjoyed it, so I thought I would share it with you guys. So let's get started. So I went ahead and grabbed a separate sheet of just paper. I think this is watercolor paper. You can probably use a lighter weight paper like a mixed media paper or just a sketching paper. I chose this because I really wanted to keep it within this size, kind of similar to the notebook. And I wanted to keep the notebook open so that as we go through this, you kind of have a visual for exactly what we're trying to do. So obviously I'm going to draw it with you, but in case you would like the before and then, so to compare however you want. Anyway, so go ahead. If you have even just one size of these markers, that's totally fine. You can do this entire piece with one size. I'm gonna flip through a few of them just to show you how you can do better details or outlining with certain ones. The first one I'm gonna pull is a size 10 pen here. So I'm gonna open this up and grab our size 10. So these are fairly light lines. They're not as heavy. I did keep them heavier in a few spots, but overall, I tried to keep it really, really light with my lines here. So that's what we're going to try to carry into this piece. I could probably start with a smaller size pen, something like maybe a size 6 or 8. But I have found that you can vary the pressure on these, and a size 10 can end up looking like a size 4 sometimes. So it just depends on your own pressure that you put onto the page when you're drawing. So if you apply a lot of pressure, you might want to go with a smaller size. If you are a very, very light drawer, you might want to go with a bigger size. So it's just kind of up to you. Just test it and see what works. All right, so I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm just going to make my first line going up. I'm really keeping a loose grip on this pen. I'm not really wanting to hold it very firmly because I want the lines to kind of be jagged and natural. If we just did a straight line up, it would be very, very unnatural. So we're trying to keep this loose and just loose and kind of just go with the feeling of the paper, if that makes sense. So I'm going to make a few of these to start, and remember, we can always add more. So if it's not exactly, you know, looking great as we're getting going, we can always change it up. It's no big deal. So I'm going to start with these lines first. We have a lot of different things we can do. I'm going to start with just what most people would consider to be the standard of a leaf shape, kind of doing the pointed leaves onto our stem. So I'll kind of show you how that would look. So starting on this far left stem here, I'm going to use my pen and create a kind of curved line on both sides. Let me get maybe some better light here just to make sure we can see it all. There we go. So I'm gonna start with some bigger leaves down here, and I'll vary their size and where they may be found on the actual vine itself. I can make them folded if I would like, so bringing it down, seeing if it's, you know, just finding a perspective with it, essentially. There's no right or wrong way to draw these. If you want them to be all uniform, go for it. That's totally fine. This is your art. I'm not going to tell you how to do it. For me, I kind of like to vary them, making some go up, making some go out. Just kind of maybe what I would see in nature itself. And then as I go to the top, I'm going to have these maybe get a little bit smaller. And it really doesn't matter because sometimes leaves, they get bigger as you go towards the top. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they just stay all the same. So there's just like no wrong way to place any of this. It's just here for you to draw it. So I know that might seem redundant, but it is. So don't fear it. You got this. Okay, as I get to the top here, I have found my favorite kind of flowers to make, or I don't even know if they're flowers, but they're just a little fun design, are these ones here, and they're very, very simple. All you're gonna do is create two stretched teardrop shapes with the top of that point being next to each other, and you fill it in. This is also why I liked having this darker markers, because whenever I go to do these, I can fill them in really quickly. Whereas if you have a smaller marker, it might take a little bit more ink. And then once I do this, I just put about 5 lines going alternating directions. So I'll start one going right, and then I'm gonna slowly do a lift with the other 2. The one in the center, the one that goes straight up, that's going to be our longest one. And I'll do it again. So I'll have maybe I have a little thing going off to the side here. Those 2 elongated teardrops, fill them in, and then 5 lines. So first going left, left middle, middle, and right. And there you go, you have a really nice simple flower. For this next one, we're gonna take that same shape, that same teardrop shape that we made for our flowers here, and we're gonna use that to make some leaves. So we're using the same technique, and we're gonna use it just a little bit differently. So for this one, sorry, my dog's in the background. Sorry if you can hear him. For this one, we're going to, again, elongate our teardrop shape. I'm going to do some fairly big ones at the bottom here. And we're going to work those up the stem of the plants. And I'm spacing these out a bit further than I did on the last one we tried working on, this first one here, where I made these fairly close together. These ones I'm going to make a little bit more apart. Once I get to the top here, I am going to change the shape of the leaf just a little bit. You don't have to do this, but I kind of like having just like a little bit of like a pointed leaf. It's almost like the opposite of what we did throughout the stalk. I just like the way it kind of looks, and it makes it a point of interest. And then I might have a couple of little, you know, parts of it branching off. You don't have to do that again. If any of this doesn't speak to you and how you would like to plan out your botanical illustration, feel free to skip it. I'm going to do the same thing on this side, working those longer leaves up towards the top of the stem here. There we go. And I'm alternating them, and then I get to the top and I make that little leaf. And maybe this one has the stem even growing out a little bit from there. So you can do this a bunch of different ways. When you get to here, I'm actually going to switch pens. I'm going to go to a smaller pen. I think I'm going to switch to a size 3 here. So we're going to do a little bit of detail work on these leaves. And when I say a little bit, I promise I mean a little bit. It's not going to be a ton. So starting at the bottom, we'll do that one first since it's biggest. I'm just going to do some very light, wispy lines. I'm keeping these very, very light, barely touching my pen to the paper. You can see we're just creating a little bit of definition on here. So it's not a ton of detail, but it's adding a little point of interest. And maybe on the smaller ones, I only add 1. Maybe I add shorter lines. They don't have to all be uniform. And then when I get to this top one, I'm going to do 3, just because it was a bit bigger. So working up the vine here. There we go. And there we go. So adding in those lines just gives it a little bit more depth. All right, and just like that, we are on to our third stem here, our third branch, whatever you want to call it, our third line. For this one, I'm gonna change up again a little bit of the leaf structure that we're doing, and we're gonna do some really, really long leaves. So for example here, we're gonna try to do these ones where they're cupping around the line itself and pulling upwards. It's almost like maybe like a reed effect, like maybe some reeds that you'd find in water. For this, what I'm gonna do is make a smiley face. Well, don't do the eyes, but I guess you can if you want. Make a smiley face over the line itself. I am also still using that size 3 pen here. You can use a size 10. It doesn't really matter. Just try to keep it consistent, whatever you are using. So after the smiley face, I'm going to pull one side. I'm going to choose the left side. I'm going to pull that upwards and bring it to a point on the opposite side of my line here. Bringing that right side up, I'm just going to pull it up until it meets our point. And there we have our little leaf. Well, not little at all, at least. Is it, huh? And up at the top here, we could do more of these types of flowers, or we could mix it up even more. We could do a simple little, like maybe like a little cup flower. So keeping with the smiley face, we just draw a smiley face at the top of that stem and then do a little wavy pattern, bringing it together at the top. Here you can add like a few lines at the bottom if you want. You can also add maybe a few little, think of them as like bulbs coming off of the stem. So do like some light lines and then some circles that are filled in, giving that idea that maybe a flower will bloom there. And you can overlay this. You can shade in the bottom of this leaf a little bit. I wouldn't do it too much because then it's going to mix into your line here and you'll see it just won't look that great because you won't be able to see what's leaf and what's line. So a little tip there, but that is our third line. All right, for the fourth line, we're gonna make a more detailed version of this flower. I'm gonna do some circular or kind of oval, but smaller than these teardrop leaves on this vine or line. So what we're gonna do, so instead of elongating it a lot, we're gonna keep it a bit shorter. So we're still gonna have that curve, but you can see these are a lot shorter, maybe even just a bit, you know, like wider, but just not as long. And I'm gonna work those up the vine, alternating. You can stack them closer together, you can have them further apart. No wrong, no wrong ideas here. And then again, I'm still working with a size 3. I'm gonna actually do some details on this now, and I'm just going to add some very light lines to the bottom here, to the bottom of these leaves. The leaves here, just to kind of give them some definition and shading down at the bottom. There we go. And again, does not matter how many lines you put. If you made them darker than mine, it's all okay, I promise. So after here, we are going to, my page done flipped. There we go. We're going to try to complete this idea of a flower. Now we're gonna start with the same shape here, but we're gonna add just a couple extra things to it. So go ahead and start with that smiley face. That smiley face at the top. We're going to again connect it using the wavy line. Now here, this is where we're gonna add just a couple of extra steps. I'm gonna go on the left part of this, and I'm going to do a little wavy line all the way at the bottom. So it looks like we have 2 petals there. Then I'm gonna do the same thing on my right. I'm gonna do a wavy line connecting at the bottom. I'm so sorry for my dog. You good? Okay, I think he's good. And then we're gonna connect them on the left and right side. Again, you probably guessed it, with a wavy line. So a little wavy line connecting the left and right side. From here, I'm gonna add a few lines at the very bottom of these petals. Maybe just like a couple on the right and left. And then I can add some in the middle if I want. Just note you don't want to add a ton, but to give it some depth, you totally could. And then we have a little just more advanced flower. All right, so the last thing we're going to do is create almost like a baby's breath or milkweed type of a flower. Think yarrow, think all of those kind of small clumped together flowers that you would see. So starting with the leaf structure first, these ones are going to be a lot like the first ones we did over here. I'm gonna make them bigger and much, much more spread out. So we're gonna have kind of, and you might wanna use like your wavy line technique with this as well. It just gives it a little bit of an effect that these leaves are kind of like crumpled a little bit, but like not as much as you would think. And then we're gonna do that line technique that we did on this last one here that we did at the very bottom of these leaves. So just adding in these very, very small line details. After that, we're going to extend the top of it just a little bit to be 3 of our lines. So these are 3 extensions of the lines. And the first thing we're gonna do is create a cloud shape on top of each of them. So creating this cloud shape. After that, we're going to bring a bunch of lines down from that cloud. So keep the stroke light, but we're gonna bring a bunch of these small lines downwards. I did 2 on each side. You can do more or less. The idea here is that we're gonna start bunching these up. So I might only see tops of some, I might only see the sides of some. You can arrange them however your heart desires. There we go. And then once we're done here, I'm gonna add an even smaller cloud to the center of the ones I originally made and color those in. And voila, we have this kind of bunched flower effect. On this, you can also add a few leaves if you would like, keeping in theme, doing a couple of our curved leaves, no rules. Maybe adding in some lines there, and there you go. And the last thing we're gonna do, which honestly can also be the first thing you do in this entire process before you even start with the botanical illustrations, is adding just some depth to your stems. So at the bottom here you can see I colored it in a darker color and then went up a little bit. It just kind of gives it the effect that it is, it's a little less simple, but, and this is completely optional, but it does add just like some heaviness to the page to say like this plant is here. I don't know of a better way to say that. Maybe I just need more coffee. So I'm gonna do that, or how I'm gonna do that is by at the bottom, I made another extra line and connected it. And then I'm gonna color in, this is again a size 3 pen. I'm just gonna color in one side of it and go maybe a quarter to halfway up. You don't have to go very far on these at all. You totally can if you want, but you do not have to. So again, make a line and just try to connect it upwards and to the best of your ability. It might seem a little messy at first, but you'll get better with some practice in building it and you'll know what you kind of like to see there. I'm going to do that for all of these. And I'm not coloring in the entirety of the stem. I am leaving some white space in there. So make sure you do leave a little bit of white space so that it doesn't, the black doesn't take over all of the stem. All right, last one here. I'll put this one a bit further up. There we go. And again, I'm just filling in that side, maybe the full bottom on that one. And there we go. We have some very simple and lovely ink botanical illustrations. Now, what you could do with this, especially since I have this on watercolor paper, is I could watercolor this if I would like, or I can leave it how it is. I think both ways are beautiful and can change the piece, the mood of the piece, and all of that. So experiment to your heart's desire. Try to use this with different mediums, use it by itself, see what you like. But I really appreciate you guys being here, creating art with me. Please like, subscribe, comment, all of those great things. And I will see you back next Friday for a new video. Happy creating, everyone!